1964. A suburban kitchen catching the early morning light. A woman stands by the Formica counter, her hand resting on the heavy chrome lever of a Sunbeam toaster. The kitchen smells of strong, percolated coffee and fresh floor wax. With a solid, satisfying clunk, the metal machine engages. No digital beeps, no glowing touchscreens. Just the quiet hum of a mechanism built out of pure steel and intention. But the strange part is this. That machine had no computer chips, no software updates, and no expiration date. Today, we spend hundreds of dollars on plastic appliances that break the moment their warranty expires. Yet that heavy metal toaster from 60 years ago is likely still sitting on a counter somewhere, browning bread perfectly, unbothered by the passing decades. These machines vanished not because they failed, but because they simply lasted too long. These are 20 forgotten appliances from the 1960s that you won't believe existed. Now, before we dive in, tap that subscribe button. You will not want to miss what is coming next. Looking back at the appliances of the 1960s is like opening a time capsule of American engineering. These were not disposable gadgets meant to be replaced every few years. They were heavy metal investments built to outlive their owners. We are constantly told that modern appliances are better simply because they are smarter. But the deeper you look, the less old-fashioned these vintage machines seem. What disappeared was not the quality or the performance. It was the industry's willingness to sell us something we would only ever have to buy once. Today, we are counting down 20 of the most incredible forgotten appliances from that era. And make sure you stay until number 1, because the final item reveals the ultimate secret to why these machines really vanished and what was taken from us in the process. The countdown starts with a machine that automated mornings long before the digital age. Number 20. The automatic drop-down toaster. For many families in the 1950s and 60s, mornings began with a piece of engineering that still feels like magic today. The Sunbeam radiant control toaster. There was no lever to push down. You simply dropped a slice of bread into the slot, and a bimetallic strip inside sensed the weight and heat, lowering the bread automatically with a smooth, silent glide. You could smell the warm toasted yeast filling the kitchen air. Today, we have smart toasters with touchscreens that break in 2 years and still manage to burn a bagel. This mid-century marvel used pure thermodynamics, no microchips required. It proved that true automation did not need a computer. It just needed brilliant design. Number 19. The electric skillet. By the mid-century, the square chrome electric skillet often sat proudly on the dining room table, not just the kitchen counter. It had short, sturdy legs and a thick metal lid that clanked heavily when lifted. A mother could plug it right into the wall near the table, frying chicken or simmering a Sunday roast while sitting with her family. You could hear the aggressive sizzle of oil and feel the heat radiating across the tablecloth. There were no toxic non-stick coatings to peel off into your food, just solid, reliable heat. It turned cooking into a shared performance, keeping the mother at the table instead of isolated by the stove. Number 18. The heavy-duty floor polisher. If you grew up in this era, you likely remember the high-pitched, roaring whine of the twin-brush floor polisher. It was an intimidating machine that required real arm strength to control as it vibrated violently across the linoleum. The sharp, chemical scent of fresh paste wax would linger in the hallway for days. Today, we push lightweight plastic mops with disposable wet pads that do half the job. But in a 1960s household, a mirror-like floor was a quiet testament to a woman's standards. The machine was merely a heavy metal extension of her discipline. Number 17. The hooded home hair dryer. Before handheld blow dryers became the norm, drugstore shelves commonly carried portable hooded hair dryers. It was a bulky motor box with a long accordion hose connecting to a large, inflatable vinyl hood. Once it was strapped over a head full of curlers, the machine roared to life, filling the ears with the loud rush of hot air and the distinct smell of warm plastic and setting lotion. But this loud machine offered a hidden gift. Because you could not hear anything else and you could not walk around, it forced a woman to sit perfectly still. It was an enforced hour of quiet in a very loud house. Number 16. The electric can opener and knife sharpener. This heavy, blocky appliance was permanently parked on the kitchen counter or mounted directly beneath the wooden cabinets. When a can was locked into place, a magnet grabbed the lid, and the motor chewed through the tin with an aggressive, grinding crunch that echoed through the room. On the back, it usually featured a grinding stone to sharpen carving knives. The industry back then understood that counter space was valuable. So an appliance needed to earn its spot by doing more than one job, and doing it well enough to outlast the house it sat in. When you look at these first 5 machines, a pattern starts to show. They were heavy, loud, and sometimes physically demanding to use. But they were entirely honest. They were not built to be replaced. They were built to be relied on. The early machines focused on the heavy labor of the house. But the next group of appliances moved from simple chores to something else entirely, changing how families entertained, starting right next to the kitchen sink. Number 15, the electric percolator. For many, the true soundtrack of a 1960s morning was not the radio, it was the rhythmic, hollow plop, plop, plop of an electric percolator. Unlike modern pod machines that silently spit out a watery cup in seconds, the percolator demanded your attention. It boiled water up a central tube, splashing it over coarse grounds repeatedly. The glass knob on the lid allowed you to watch the liquid turn darker and richer with each cycle. It filled the kitchen with an aggressively strong roasted aroma that modern drip machines simply cannot replicate. It was not just making coffee, it was brewing an atmosphere. Number 14, the Beehive blender. Before the era of touchpads and pre-programmed smoothie settings, there was the classic Osterreicher Beehive blender. It was a masterpiece of minimalist engineering, a heavy chrome base shaped like a beehive, topped with a thick ribbed glass pitcher. It usually had exactly one toggle switch, on or off, but inside that base housed a motor so incredibly powerful it could crush solid ice for decades without burning out. Today, a dropped blender pitcher means buying a whole new machine because it is made of cheap, integrated plastic. Back then, if you broke the glass, you just bought a replacement jar. The motor itself was practically immortal. Number 13, the tabletop broiler. The post-war boom brought a fascination with meat, and the tabletop broiler was the ultimate symbol of domestic efficiency. This was a heavy open-front metal box with a glowing red heating element, designed specifically to sear steaks and burgers right on the countertop. You could hear the intense sizzle and watch the fat drip down into the shallow aluminum tray. It was dangerously hot and completely unapologetic. Modern kitchens hide everything behind sleek, cool-touch surfaces, but this machine proudly displayed its raw, glowing power. Number 12, the electric carving knife. Sunday dinners in the mid-century were rituals, and the electric carving knife was the ceremonial sword. Stored in a velvet-lined case or a wooden block, it featured 2 serrated blades that locked together and vibrated back and forth at high speed. When the father of the house plugged it in, the loud mechanical buzz commanded the room's attention. It sliced through a roast or a Thanksgiving turkey with effortless precision. It was completely unnecessary. A sharp traditional knife worked just fine. But it represented the era's absolute obsession with electrifying every possible human motion. Number 11, the under-cabinet ice crusher. Entertaining guests was a high art in the 1960s, and no dinner party was complete without crushed ice for cocktails. Instead of relying on a noisy refrigerator dispenser, many kitchens featured a dedicated ice crusher mounted right under the upper cabinets. Whether hand-cranked or motorized, you dropped ice cubes in the top, and the heavy metal teeth aggressively chewed them into perfect shards. The loud, rattling crunch of breaking ice meant the adults were gathering, drinks were being poured, and the evening had officially begun. By this point, the pattern is no longer just about kitchen convenience. It is about how these heavy, specialized machines reflected the exact social standards of the era. They were designed to support a lifestyle of formal dinners, polished appearances, and rigid domestic routines. But as we move out of the kitchen and look at the next few appliances, we see machines that were built to protect something even more important: how a family presented themselves to the outside world. Number 10, the electric shoe polisher. In a 1960s household, walking out the front door with scuffed shoes was not just sloppy, it was a breach of personal standards. To maintain this discipline, many homes kept an electric shoe polisher in the closet. It was a handheld motor with high-speed spinning buffer pads. When turned on, it whirred loudly, throwing the sharp chemical scent of paste wax into the air. Today, people buy cheap, disposable shoes and throw them away when they look tired. Back then, you bought good leather and maintained it with mechanical precision. It was not just vanity, it was dignity. Number 9. The warming tray. Before the microwave oven trained us to blast cold leftovers into 60 seconds, kitchens relied on the electric warming tray. Often featuring a gold-toned metal or faux wood-grain surface, this appliance sat elegantly on the dining room sideboard. Its sole purpose was to keep a prepared meal at the perfect serving temperature without overcooking it, waiting for a husband to come home from work or for guests to take their seats. It represented a different relationship with time. Food was not something to be nuked in a hurry. A hot meal was an expectation, held ready with patience and respect. The closer we get to number 1, the less this is about objects and the more it is about identity. These were not just machines. They were quiet standards repeated until they became character. Number 8. The portable dishwasher. Not every mid-century home had built-in modern cabinets, so the industry provided the portable dishwasher. It was a massive rolling metal cube, often topped with a heavy wooden butcher block. After dinner, a mother would physically wheel it across the linoleum floor, attach a thick rubber hose directly to the kitchen faucet, and plug it in. It rumbled and shook the whole floor as it washed. It was a heavy, cumbersome piece of machinery, but it was not hidden away. It was a loud, proud testament to a family's progress and a mother's hard-earned convenience. Number 7. The reversible waffle iron and grill. Modern appliance aisles are filled with cheap plastic gadgets that do exactly one thing before breaking. The 1960s offered the reversible waffle iron instead. Encased in brilliant chrome, it featured heavy cast aluminum plates. If you wanted waffles, you used the textured side. If you wanted to fry bacon or grill a sandwich, you simply unhinged the heavy plates, flipped them over to the flat side, and locked them back in. You did not buy two flimsy appliances. You bought one indestructible piece of metal that understood its assignment completely. Number 6. The electric hot dog cooker. The atomic age brought a strange obsession with electrifying everything, sometimes crossing into the absurd. The electric hot dog cooker, like the famous Presto hot dogger, literally electrocuted dinner. You spiked the meat onto metal prongs, closed the lid, and ran a live household current directly through the hot dogs, cooking them from the inside out in 60 seconds. It smelled like ozone and cooking meat. It was bizarre, slightly dangerous, and completely fascinating, a true symbol of the mid-century kitchen as a laboratory of the future. The early appliances were about power, and the middle ones were about standards. But as we move into the final 5, the story changes entirely. These last few machines prepare us for the ultimate truth of what we lost when the industry decided to replace skill with plastic. Number 5. The wall-mounted electric clock with a cord. Look closely at a kitchen from the early 1960s, and you will notice something missing. Batteries. The large round clock on the wall was directly plugged into an electrical outlet. Because it ran on alternating current, the sweeping second hand did not tick. It glided in one continuous, hypnotic circle, emitting a barely audible, low-frequency hum. This heavy metal and glass clock kept absolutely perfect time, tethered permanently to the heartbeat of the house. It represented a time when the rhythm of a family's day was fixed, unhurried, and perfectly synchronized. Number 4. The countertop deep fryer. Friday nights in many mid-century homes smelled distinctively of hot oil thanks to the heavy aluminum countertop deep fryer. Unlike the plastic air fryers of today that promise the illusion of fried food without the effort, this machine was beautifully honest. It required quarts of actual oil and featured a heavy metal wire basket. When a mother plunged sliced potatoes into the rolling boil, the violent, crackling hiss filled the room. It left a faint, lingering smell of grease on the kitchen curtains for days, a sensory memory of domestic labor that entire generations still associate with the comfort of home. Number 3. The stand mixer with glass bowls. The Sunbeam Mix Master was the undisputed queen of the kitchen counter. With its torpedo-shaped motor housing, heavy chrome base, and thick ribbed glass bowls, it was an absolute tank. When a mother turned the black plastic dial, the heavy whine of the motor signaled that a birthday cake or Sunday biscuits were underway. If the modern world is defined by plastic mixers that burn out in a year, this machine was the exact opposite. It was a tool that baked 1,000 cakes, never smoked, and was quietly passed from mother to daughter when she moved into her first home. Number 2, the manual click dials on washing machines. Before washing machines became flat, digital touch screens that refused to start because of a software glitch, they were entirely mechanical. You walked up to the heavy steel control panel, grabbed the thick plastic dial, pulled it out, and turned it. Clack, clack, clack. You could physically feel the heavy copper contacts engaging inside. You did not just press a button, you commanded a machine. And if the cycle stopped, you did not call a computer technician. You unplugged it, unscrewed the back panel, and figured out which mechanical part needed to move. And now we reach the final item. But the truth is, number 1 is not an appliance at all. It is the secret to why all of these machines worked, and the exact reason why they eventually vanished. Number 1, the appliance manuals that included wiring diagrams. When you bought a toaster, a blender, or a washing machine in the 1960s, it came with a thin paper booklet. And if you turned to the back pages, you would find a complete, detailed schematic of the machine's internal wiring and mechanical parts. The industry did not hide how the machine worked. They gave you the blueprint. Picture a father sitting at the kitchen table late at night, a flashlight in his mouth, tracing the lines on that grease-stained paper to replace a 50-cent belt. The manufacturer trusted the consumer. They believed that an ordinary man or woman had the intelligence to take a screwdriver, open the metal casing, and fix it. Today, our machines are sealed shut with plastic tabs and stickers that warn, "Warranty void if removed." They do not want you to fix it. They want you to buy another one. That paper manual was not just a guide. It was an inheritance of self-reliance. It was not a product, it was dignity. And when they took away those blueprints, they didn't just sell us a new machine. They took away our ability to repair our own lives. These 20 appliances from the 1960s did not disappear because they stopped working. They disappeared because they worked too well. We traded heavy metal for cheap plastic, and in the process, we traded our own self-reliance for convenience. What vanished was not just the machine, but the household intelligence that came with it, the patience to maintain it, the skill to repair it, and the pride of passing it down. Somewhere, an old Sunbeam toaster is still pressing down a slice of bread with a heavy metallic clunk. Somewhere, a heavy electric clock is still sweeping its second hand without making a sound. And somewhere, a father's grease-stained manual is still tucked inside a kitchen drawer, a quiet reminder of a time when we owned our machines, instead of our machines owning us. What appliance do you remember your parents or grandparents using that simply refused to break? Share your memories in the comments below. If you enjoyed this journey back in time, please like, subscribe, and click the video on your screen for another trip into the forgotten corners of old America.